Cup of Joe is basically ruining us. Buying a cup of coffee is ruining all of us. You go to Starbucks, $10 a cup. Oh my God, the whole month, $10. That's $300 a month you wasted on coffee. That's insane. That's what every blogger is talking about. That a cup of coffee is gonna kill all of us basically financially, and that's what ruining us. And that's the reason behind all of our financial problems. And if we just don't drink coffee as much in Starbucks and maybe buy a coffee machine or something like that and save on that, then we can save ourselves a fortune, and then we're gonna become rich, and that's not gonna be a problem. Partially true, just partially true. And let me explain. Let me delve it a little bit deeper. So a cup of coffee, yeah. If let's say $10, let's go to Starbucks for example. What it's like $8. Let's say $10 a cup of coffee. Yeah, that's $300. That's a lot of money a month that you wasted on a coffee. I agree. That is quite excessive. But when we're talking about a cup of coffee, what I think we should all point out is the whole behavior and the whole understanding of how financial management works. Cup of coffee is just part of it. When we're talking about purchases that we're making, whether it's just something that we want to buy, whether it's a piece of clothing or whether it's maybe a car or something like that, that's what we're talking about, is where people don't just think about it and don't understand how it can financially affect them down the road. Cup of coffee, yeah, that's important. You could probably cut down on costs on that and maybe get some cheaper version somewhere, or maybe get a coffee machine, and down the road you're going to save on that. But what everybody's talking about, the cup of coffee is going to save or make you rich or something like that, it's not true. It's not true. It's something just to grab your attention, which it functions very well, because it does grab your attention, and you think, okay, well, cup of coffee, if I just don't do that, then I'm going to save it. We all, as human beings, looking for an easy way out. All of us are looking for an easy way out. But I have to cut it to you. I have to admit it to you. Just by cutting down on your costs on coffee is not going to fix all your financial problems. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not. What the problem is overall behavior, or how we're looking at purchasing anything. Anything. You want to buy a car? Let's say one of the major purchases. You want to buy a car. And a lot of Americans are not really thinking about it very, very much. They're not thinking about negotiation comes into it. They're not thinking about whether they actually need that car, or maybe they can afford that car. Just because you can finance that car doesn't mean that you can afford to buy that car, because it can probably financially ruin you. And then maybe not even just ruin you, maybe it's just going to affect you so much that all you're going to be doing is just paying off that bill. So before you're thinking about buying something, I don't care if it's just something as minor as a piece of clothing, maybe that costs only 20, 30 bucks or something like that. Think about it first. Do you need this thing? Are you going to use it? Maybe not. If you're not going to use it, especially if it's a big purchase, let's say it's $1,000 purchase. I don't care what it is, a widget, an iPad, I don't know, but something, If you want to buy it, think about it first, because that's what we as Americans having a problem with. We think about it, well, oh yeah, it looks cool, it's got all the widgets and gadgets and on it and everything, and we're thinking, okay, we're gonna buy it right now. I want it right now. I want to buy it because, oh my God, it's so cool, and I'm gonna have this thing and I can do all this stuff with it, and then they don't ever use it. Don't do that. Oh my God, don't do that, because I've seen so much of that stuff happening, and then you have that thing laying around there and you never touch it, you never use it. If it's a piece of clothing, maybe it's just going to be laying out there somewhere, and at some point or the other you're going to donate, which is a great thing to donate. But then if you wasted so much money on it and you never worn it, if you never used it, why did you buy it? Why did you buy it? And now becoming a topic where some of those purchases, even some of the small purchases, you can finance. Some of the clothings, you can have a purchase like $100 clothing or something like that, which you're probably gonna, maybe you can tear, or something's gonna happen to it, maybe you're never gonna wear it, and then you can have a convenient payment of, I don't know, $5 a month that you can finance this, which sounds amazing, because $5 a month doesn't sound like anything. $9-10 a month doesn't sound like anything, but it will accumulate interest throughout the time, and it's a thing that you're never gonna use. You're gonna throw it away, so you basically waste it. Let's say that finances. Let's say it's a $100 piece of clothing, and you finance that, and your payment is $10 a month. And let's say you have to pay that payment, let's say conservatively, just for a whole year, which is a pretty good deal, to be honest with you. But you're still going to be paying $120 on a piece of clothing that costs you only $100, which, like I said, most likely the interest is going to be a lot higher. But let's just talk about this kind of scenario. But you never worn it. You never used it. You never have really got any benefit out of it. It's just a piece of clothing that just lays around there, and you have never had any purpose for it. And you just wasted $120 for nothing. And you actually paid interest on it too, on top of that. So $100 plus $20 of interest, you just throw it away. And that's the thing about it here in the United States. Really, throughout the whole world, we got to understand. We got to think about it. Write it down. Write what are the benefits of you buying, especially if it's a big purchase. Especially if it's a big purchase. Write down what are the benefits of having this purchase. What do you think you're gonna get out of it? Do you actually need it? Are you gonna use this thing? If you're not gonna use this thing, maybe you don't need to buy it. Maybe you don't need to waste money on it. And then that's another thing too. Like, let's say cars. A lot of people buying cars that they cannot afford. So, if you can't afford it, why you buy it in the first place? Yeah, you can finance. A lot of vehicles you can finance. And you think that you can afford it, but you have right now, Americans, I think, are paying like $700-800. I can post the exact payment right now, average payment. Paying $700-800 a month for a vehicle. And then if that's financially burdening you, yeah, any kind of dealership can finance you. It's getting a little stricter now. But if you can't afford it, if it's half of your income, some banks will finance you. But do you want to end up to the point where half of your income is going to a car, and then at least 30% of your income is going to go to living somewhere, and then what are you going to live on? 10-20%? How are you going to survive? Then you have no freedom at all. Absolutely no freedom. You don't want to end up in that situation. That's why you want to think about it first. If you can't make the numbers add up, if something like a vehicle is over 10-20%, and honestly, to me that sounds a little too much anyway. I mean, what really restricts you from buying a vehicle that is good on gas and it's not going to cost you that much, and it's just a fraction of your income? Nobody's going to point fingers at you and tell you that you're driving a vehicle that's below your means. Because if you can afford something that's better, but you're driving something that's actually cheaper and that's below your means, props to you. Props to you. Honestly, that's good for you. Because you're not wasting money on something and trying to pretend to be flashy for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Don't do that. Live below your means. You have to live below your means. Honestly, if you want to live a comfortable life, you can't pretend. So there's a horrible phrase we have in the United States that damages a lot of us. Fake it till you make it. Don't do that. Don't ever fake it till you make it. Because you're going to be wasting so much time trying to be flashy, trying to buy stuff that's going to pretend to make you look like you're rich. But in all the fact, you're not rich. You're trying to get to that point, and the best way to get to that point is to accumulate more wealth, invest in more wealth, and find more streams of income instead of pretending to look like you're rich. If you buy a couple thousand, let's say you buy a couple $1,000 bag, some fancy bag. I'm not gonna name brands. Some fancy bag that you buy for a couple $1,000, and you're living in somewhere where you don't want to be living in, and if your income is only, let's say if your income is only $2,000 a month, and you're buying a $2,000 bag, you wasted more than your month income on it. The reason why more than a month, you wasted more than a month of your time, is because your income, $2,000 income, is obviously you're gonna have to pay rent, living expenses, and everything else from that. So basically, you're not just wasting 1 month of income or 1 month of your time. You're wasting a couple of months of your time just to catch up to make that payment of $2,000 for a bag that, yeah, it's gonna make you look like you're fancy, like you're cool, that you're rich, but in all reality, the amount of stress that you're going to put yourself into just to afford that bag, car, whatever, in this case, bag, is going to stress you out. This is not the way the wealthy people live. This is not the way that the rich people will live. Just because you have that bag and you can show it to your friends, family, and show off and pretend that you're rich, it's not going to actually make you rich. It's actually going to make you poorer. Believe it or not, having a bag that you cannot afford or a car that you're not going to afford is going to make you poorer. And that's what makes us as Americans poor. I'll give you an example for a car. And I follow a lot of dealerships and salesmen, dealership salesmen, and there are a lot of interesting stories. So there's a vehicle, Ioniq 5. It's an electric vehicle, and there's an example. A lady bought that vehicle after tax and everything else. She financed for $59,000. Okay, $59,000, brand new vehicle. Okay, 1 week later, she stopped by at the same dealership and said, "I don't like it. I'd like to get something different because the electric vehicle, I'm concerned about the range and I don't know if that's going to be convenient for me. I like to get a hybrid one." Okay, well, you can do that. But the problem is, now the dealership, after she put 1,200 miles on that vehicle, which is quite a lot, but still, regardless, after putting 1,200 miles on a vehicle and just driving for 1 week, they told her they'll give her $39,000 worth. You lost $20,000 on a vehicle in 1 week. In 1 week. We're not talking about just buying something else. She might have bought something else that she's going to lose more money on. We're not talking about that yet. What we're talking about is her buying a car for $59,000 and then they offering her $39,000. She's losing $20,000 in 1 week. That's insane. That's bonkers insane. You're basically, that's what, like $10 a mile that you spend? That's almost $20 a mile that you spend. Almost $20 a mile that you spend. Not counting all the electricity costs and everything else to charge that vehicle, which obviously maintenance is not going to be anything, but not counting all the electricity costs, but just by itself, just in depreciation, you lost $20,000 on that vehicle. That is insane. So, don't pretend and don't try to fake it till you make it. That is a horrible phrase. Don't do that. And just a piece of coffee, it's not just about a piece of coffee. Just not a cup of coffee. It's the whole mentality that we need to work on. As Americans, as the world, as anybody who has tried to delve into credit on financial management, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't get yourself in this problem. Don't get yourself in this stress. Like, follow, subscribe. We're going to keep on going. So